JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, January 29, 2019 on this fine morning. Really quick rant, talk about the markets. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures up about 10% here on the heels of yesterday's brutal sell-off, joking aside. S&P put an end to its five-session winning streak, closing down 0.0001%. Yeah, I mean, good stuff, all things considered. Even looking at the daily intraday 1 minute chart on the SPY yesterday, you can kind of see the volume at around 2 o'clock and 2:30. But the Fed meeting, right? No surprises yesterday. Fed Chair Powell had the opportunity to get a little more political and answer some of the questions in regards to his being at the Supreme Court, discussion around Lisa Cook, and then some other things in regards to the Department of Justice subpoenas and things like that. And he kind of just said he's not going to talk about them, and that was that. So good stuff there. And now it's like he's a lame duck. So yeah, we'll have to see how things play out this week. So after the close, that was kind of the big thing, right? Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, IBM, other names reporting. The big ones to look at, obviously, with the AI backdrop and all the things going on with CapEx and data centers and things like that, was Meta and Microsoft. And Meta had a decent quarter. It's like one of those quarters Meta's had before. And, it had a quarter like that and it dropped 20%, right? Yesterday, it had a quarter. And some of it has to do, I guess, with its revenue guide, but like a 30% revenue growth guidance. And then people looking for return on investment in regards to the CapEx spend. So because of, I guess, concerns in the past where they've raised CapEx spend and it hasn't, there hasn't been fruits of that, it sold off. This time it would seem like the reverse. People are like, okay, the spend in AI is actually bearing fruit. They're getting return on investment in regards to the ads, the monetizing and directing of the ads, right? I think they talked about improving monetization of the ads by like 98%, some crazy number, right? So, and no, I think 98% of revenues is from ads. So if they're able to increase the return on investment because of the CapEx spend, then it warrants the spend. So you see that stock going bonkers. And then on the reverse, you have Microsoft. And Microsoft had from first glance, say, wow, great quarter. But then there's concerns around their cloud business, right? I think they 38% growth in Azure, but I guess it was supposed to be higher than that, or there were expectations for higher. And then there's concerns too around their CapEx, right? The big thing to me when I keep talking about the great circle jerk, everybody's has their hands in all these deals and all these different companies backing each other. And then the CapEx spend of it. But to me, if the CapEx spend, if you're spending all this money on the data centers and all this investment, there has to be some kind of return on investment, right? If they're not making money, what's the point of that? So maybe that's some concern there in Microsoft, but you see that one selling off. On the flip side, it's almost like you see Microsoft down and then Google's up. So it's almost like people like, okay, it's a good thing for Google. I don't know. They talked about their cloud. The reason cloud was not higher or over 40% is because they have to adjust. They only have a certain amount of resources to deploy and they have to adjust it to other areas. And that's why I don't know how that all works, right? It sounds all good on paper, but trying to explain and rationalize the moves, that sounds like that's why. So to me, it's like, okay, we survived the Fed meeting. We survived earnings after the close. And now it's on to Apple after the close today. And, Apple, I would love to get bullish on Apple. Apple just has to kind of address the AI side of things. Like, what is that? It's like Apple and Amazon. If they're able to figure out a way to get on the AI train, the gravy train, you could see Apple getting to $300 and Apple and Amazon, right? And I haven't traded Amazon in eons. I would love to get on the Amazon gravy train and ride that up to $300. Maybe at some other time, but certainly can go a long way. Next week, I think Google reports Wednesday or Thursday next week. All right, so that's overall markets. Talk about resistance. Upper bones around 698 and change on the SPY. So watching that, maybe I'll take a couple chances, a couple of visits to 698 to break through. 693 if we do get some selling. You have to think at some point we're going to have a pull just because. And people will be looking around and say, oh, what's the catalyst? What's the news? It's got to think it's going to happen. I was expecting an overnight pull, right? We've had those where you have great earnings, and then all of a sudden you think you're going to wake up to the S&P, NASDAQ can be up 1%, and then you're like, oh wait, we're down 1%. What's going on? It's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be after Apple earnings after the close today. I don't know, but anyways, that's overall markets. So just watching that, and also yields, and yields just reversed. They were actually lower. They just went into the green here. So don't want to see the 10-year start to creep higher. All right, so that's over. And of course, Powell yesterday talking about the big elephant in the room. It's not even the elephant in the room, right? It's just that people only talk about it when it matters. And the U.S. debt, it's unsustainable, right? It's like that's not an arguable fact. It's not, you can't dismiss that and say, oh no, it's not unsustainable. If the U.S. government does not do something about a debt, eventually the financing of the debt's going to surpass every expenditure. And yeah, then that's a path of no return, right? There's anyway, rants for other days, but Powell talked about that. So part of that, the debt situation is yields, and yields can't keep going higher. All right, so overall market, just quick on individual names. Yesterday was kind of like a harvest day, so Arista Networks gapped higher at the open with all the backdrop of all these names, Alan Research, ASML, what's going on with the deal at the start of the week, NVIDIA and CoreWeave. You would think it's all bullish Arista Networks. I thought it'd be ramping into the 160s. It ramped high to 150, it gapped higher to 153 at the open, and then just fizzled. And then I didn't want to be at a part where I'm losing money on the trade, so I locked some in for 100% at the open. And then once it started to find some weakness, I closed them out. And funny enough, so I locked plenty of profits. So I did 152.50s for nice profits. In hindsight, should I just had held the 152.50s? I think there were $2 at the open. So either way, made some nice coin. The other thing is I was watching at the open too on sorry, just looking Joby, huh? Tuesday we had the sell off too. I did the pull and then it bounced and I got those 160s for next week. It looked like it was going to do the same thing yesterday and it did, but it hit lows later in the day. So I'm not going to try and time Arista Networks. Even today, you would think with Microsoft, Meta, and all the updates in regards to earnings that Arista Networks be trading north of 155, and here it is, pretty much flat. So maybe I'll revisit. I don't know if I'll waste more mental energy on that one. So that's Arista. And then Serve Robotics. Talked about this on the Rant yesterday afternoon. Gapped up to $13, hit 13.27. And then, if you've traded it, you kind of know if it doesn't show follow through after the open, the sellers are going to come in. That's what happens. So I locked the last of my calls in for some profits. And then I'll revisit. Still have the March strikes. One half me wants to get June 25s, but I'll continue to be patient there. Other names, Altimmune, disappointing. Looked like it was going to go red to green into the late morning. And then sellers came in, took it into the red, closed down 17%. Still have those February freebies with profits. I'll continue to hold those with the March strikes. Roblox and Reddit, right? Reddit. I'm on the Rant yesterday afternoon looking at the calls like I always do on Reddit. I'm like, the 210s look interesting, 45 cents. If I had more conviction. And then sure enough, it's up $7 here in the pre-market. I don't know if it's going to do a gap and fade. So maybe this is the highs of the day. Or on the flip side, be the start of finally a sustainable bounce. So I might nibble some lottos at the open, maybe the 212.50s, the 215s if it kind of holds $200. But I'm certainly I'm not going to be chasing the open, so I'll be patient. But one of these days it rallies. I put it on the watch. It's like when Reddit sells off. It's 10 sessions ago was 260. No news, no downgrade, no anything. I don't know if it's caught up with the software sell off, if it's just getting caught up with the basket of names. I know there's a lot of folks who are bearish on Reddit. So at some point, I'll look for some lottos again. I don't know if I'll do it today. Maybe I'll wait for tomorrow. Same with Roblox. Roblox up 4%, but still well off its highs from last week. So I don't know if it's the start of a rally or if just a relief bounce. So those are the names I'll be watching for lottos today. And that's it. I got to get off. We got 3 minutes to the open. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.